Yes, jolly good stuff. Quiet down now. Sit up, pay attention. Thank you for joining us, where today I've been proven wrong and a liar by this boy here who has more than 20 50-cent certificates off the back of Weet-Bix boxes behind him. Therefore, he clearly knows more than I do, with his absolutely no background in science whatsoever. And as such, instead of dealing with any actual science, what he does instead is has to attempt to take shots at yours truly, the field marshal, by means of misrepresenting what it is I have said and the truth, veracity, correctness, and scientific goodiness of such things. Really, it's desperate, it's pathetic, it's clout chasing. Frankly, I have tremendous clout. I do, Stephen, unlike yourself, has a subscriber base of around 10,000 and gets less than 1,000 views on most of his videos in the first year or so. Clearly, people are paying a lot of attention, Stephen, so you've got to have a shot at someone who has a bigger channel than you do. I understand that. I do that myself. Only when I do it, I actually say something that's worthwhile. I have a point to make, and I show my superiority to those people intellectually in terms of my scientific veracity and stuff, as opposed to what you're doing here, which is really just straw manning. And it's a pathetic, desperate attempt to clout chase, as I have said. So let's hear what Stephen had to say in his second attempt to undercut yours truly, the Field Marshal. And we shall see, shan't we, boys and girls, whether or not Mr. Daniel has any points. And we'll deal with them in our usual point-wisey, styley and fashion. That's what we'll do. So, Stephen, the floor is yours. Do tell us all about how I'm a liar and stuff. Let's hear it.
Bart K is the moronic gift that keeps...
Yes, moronic. Absolutely moronic. Well, one of us, Stephen, has 25 years as a scientist behind him, 25 of those years as a lecturer or assistant lecturer, as the case may be, at various times during that career. Assistant at the beginning, obviously, lecturer in the middle, senior lecturer at the end, and finally a professorship, actually. 3 advanced research degrees. How many have you got? Sorry, microphone. None at all. A long list of publications as first author investigating scientist. How many have you got, Stephen? Same number. None, that is. Plus or minus a 95% confidence interval, Stephen, of none. 0, not one. Also, several occasions, dragged in multi-million-dollar funding sources to the universities that I was working at various times to be involved in the design, data collection, and reporting on various major external consultancies. How many times have you done that, Stephen? Same number, same confidence interval, none. And anyway, it's not about my CV. That's above reproach. That is what it is. And you, Stephen Daniel, have to cut out 50-cent certificates off the back of Weet-Bix boxes, frame those up and put them behind you, because, well, if we look at what's in front of that, probably we're not very impressed. Are we, boys and girls? I'm certainly not. Not remotely impressed at all. Nothing to see here of any value. Let's hear if there's anything to hear of any value. I doubt it. Actually, I've seen it, so I know there isn't. I know it's cheating, but nonetheless, we'll deal with it. Stephen.
Keeps on giving, and since he continues to spread lies about me...
No, I've never lied about you, not once, Stephen. That is a lie. You are a liar.
I've decided to call him out on some of the lies that he's told.
Nope, never told a lie in my life, Stephen, online, in any of my videos. We'll deal with that, though, in this video.
Starting with his fake carnivore diet
No, nothing fake about it. I reported what did occur.
Experiment. He loves to tell people that between January 1st of 2022 to January 14th of 2022...
It's not that I love to. I'm just reporting what happened, Stephen.
He stuffed his face with as much meat as possible, 5 to 6 times his normal calories.
Yep.
And he ended up losing weight.
Yes, that's what happened. That's why I reported such.
Sounds impressive, doesn't it? Well,
it probably is only impressive if you don't understand physiology, Stephen. What actually happened to me during that period of time was quite what was expected, actually, based on what was going on beforehand, what was going on during, and those things all added up to what occurred. And that's what I reported on, as I said. What's next?
Well, the only problem is that it never actually happened.
Yes, it did.
Here he is telling the story to Steak and Butter Gal on her channel on January 30th, 2022.
Yes, the issue here, Stephen, which we'll see in a minute, is that what you're doing is creatively editing bits of different discussions out of their context, set at different times with different purposes, and you're leaving that context out entirely to attempt to muddy the waters and take shots at someone who is basically vastly superior to you in every way conceivable, Stephen. It's clout chasing, it's desperate, it's pathetic. What it is an attempt from you to save face, having been spanked by me, and appropriately so, because you said that calories in, calories out is valid and a useful tool that people can use to predictably affect their body composition and or their weight in a safe and reliable fashion. And you're wrong. I said so. Now you've got some very, very serious algesia of your sphincter. And as such, I can only really prescribe for you, or suggest to you really, because I'm not prescribing anything, suggest to you that a good analgesic cream liberally applied to said sphincter would be indicated in your case. While you're there, you should probably muzzle the front end, son, because frankly, all you're doing is making an absolute fool of yourself, which I'm quite delighted to help you do by pointing to the errors of interpretation, the strawmen, and the lies you are putting up here. You liar. I've just finished a 2-week period of priming doing the steak and butter gang carnivore priming. Notice how he's edited the video. He's sped it up in order perhaps to save some time, but probably mostly to make my voice sound higher than it really is. Program. And I was consuming 5 and 6 times my normal intake of effective energy. Yes. In food for 2 weeks. Yep. And in that 2 weeks, my weight went down by 4 pounds. Fat. The context of this discussion was the loss of fat specifically. That 4 pounds is plus or minus whatever the error of measurement is of your average biometric impedance scale, which I've looked up and I do understand what the error around the measurement is. I'm perfectly happy to say that the error was probably fairly insignificant around that particular aspect of the weight loss, which was the fat portion of the total fat loss during that, or the total weight lost during that 2-week period. The fat portion of it was around 4 pounds, or roughly 2.5 kilograms, give or take. Okay, that's what it was. Yes, the context of this discussion with Bella was fat specifically. My total weight on a scale, total mass lost, body mass lost in that 14 days, depending on my water balance on any given day for the 14 days following, was that anywhere between an additional 15 to 20 pounds, give or take, in water was also lost during that period, such that the total weight lost was around about somewhere between 15 and 18 kilograms, give or take. This discussion with Bella is about fat solely, 4 pounds, give or take, 2.5 kilos, give or take. Good. What's next? Okay, so calories in, calories out, busted. Right, there you go. So eating 6.5 thousand calories, that is the 95%, that's the 100% range of different values, I think it was, from memory, around the so-called caloric intakes for those 14 days, which is in comparison to my usual 1,1800 so-called calories. That is a fairly significant, fairly vast increase in caloric intake for that period of 14 days. During which time, if calories in, calories out was correct, you could expect that I would have gained significant fat. I did not. I lost an amount of fat, roughly 4 pounds. Calories in, calories out, busted. There we go. What's next, Stephen? This seems I'm such a liar.
Right.
Sorry, boys and girls, it doesn't work.
Sounds impressive, doesn't it? He lost
Not really. If you understand physiology, it's exactly what was expected.
4 pounds after stuffing his face for 2 weeks. Well,
Yeah.
when he spoke to me on July 4th of 2020,
Different context, different discussion, different goals in mind. We were having a debate-style discussion about mainly exercise programming, but also calories in, calories out was mentioned during that discussion, which is universally described as being a predictable way of gauging what's going to happen to your weight, your total body weight. And so the context of the discussion with you, Stephen, was total body weight, not the fat specifically. Hence, you get a different number because the number I gave you included the water, which I also qualified to you during this discussion, which you're about to hear. Such a liar I am.
I guess the 4 pounds wasn't quite impressive enough because he told
No, the 4 pounds was fat specifically. The total value I gave you included the water mass lost as well, Stephen.
me that he lost 22 pounds.
Correct.
Let's go ahead and take a look.
Explain that.
Which was kind of a mid-range figure as well. You need to also understand, Stephen, that anytime you measure anything physiological on a human being, there is a variability of measurement, day to day, whatever. There is a 95% confidence interval around the number you get. So I have leeway, quite a bit of leeway, to accurately and correctly report slightly different numbers from time to time based on what my goal is. When I'm talking to you about how much weight I lost in total on a scale, around 22 pounds, I'm using a number closer to the upper end of that 95% confidence interval. It is still correct scientifically. It is still truthful. It is still a gauge on what occurred to make the strongest possible point in a debate-style discussion about the concept. And the concept at the stage of this discussion with you was about weight on a scale. So I'm going to use the upper bound. I lost, up to 22 pounds, 10 kilos or so, on the basis that that is the upper range of the error around that measurement, which is made up of technical error, that of the scale, human error, such that it might be on standing on a scale, a biometric impedance scale, and asking it what your weight is and how that's made up, and biological error, the variability of mostly water in my body on any given day, such that my weight, if nothing else changes, will do that based on my water balance by quite a bit, because 65% generally of my weight tends to be water, give or take. All right? Good.
The following to me, if you please.
Okay.
Between January 1 this year and January 14 this year,
2022.
I increased my caloric intake from roughly 17 to 1800 per day, kcals, up to 8.5 to 8,750.
No, misspeak. Apologies for that. That's just an error. It's the sort of thing that can happen during a live presentation. The wrong numbers can sometimes come out of your mouth. What's important here is the concept. The actual figure was 6.5, plus or minus 95% around that. I really should have said 6 rather than 8 in front of that number. That said, it was a mistake. It was a misspeak. But that said, actually, the numbers I gave are still within the realms of possibility of 95% confidence around that, based on the error of measurement of how many calories one is consuming, which is vast. Actually, I'll cover that in more detail for those of you who think I'm scrabbling around here. It's actually Stephen scrabbling around, desperately trying to make scratches on the armor of a vastly superior and well-decorated meat militia officer, I'll have you know. Right. The calories listed for various foods are allowed to be out by 20% either way. Either way. So, if when I was saying 6 to 6,500, I was using the lower 95% bound, and if talking about 8,500 to 8,750, I'm talking about the upper 95% bound of that, then I'm still telling the truth within 95% confidence limits. Sorry about that. It was a mistake. I misspoke. Nonetheless, it's still actually correct, Stephen, and your point falls flat on its face. You need to understand that anytime you measure anything, there is an error of that measurement. And if you report a number anywhere within the 95% confidence intervals of that number, you are telling the truth. Scientists do it all the time, son. And the reason I'm using the largest numbers possible for everything in this chat is to make my point as powerfully as possible in a debate-style discussion, still within the bounds of scientific truth and correctness. Okay? No points, Stephen. You fall flat on your face again, you stupid, ignorant, pathetic, desperate little boy. At least you've got a shirt on for this.
kcal per day, without fail, every day for 14 days.
Mm-hmm.
What happened to my body mass during those 14 days?
Body mass, not the weight in fat. Body mass total on a scale. Different context.
14 days.
I'm going to assume, because you're asking me this question.
Notice also when he's actually speaking to someone like me who is vastly superior to him, he actually speaks in a reasonable tone with a reasonable cadence and isn't quite so fucking offensive as he is when he's making his own little videos. It's amazing, isn't it? It's almost timid, Stephen. Are you intimidated by me? You should be, son. You're totally outclassed. You're completely out of your depth. I'm superior to you in every way. Sorry about that. Again, take some of that cream, apply liberally. Muzzle the front end. You're making a fool of yourself. Carry on, though. You're doing a great job.
That it went down.
Correct. It did go down. It went down by 10 kilograms.
There you go. 2.5 of which was fat and 7.5 of which was water, according to the biometric impedance scale. Listen carefully.
Of which 7.5 of those kilograms were water. Absolutely.
Yeah.
The other 2.5 were fat, according to my biometric impedance scale.
Right, so it's qualified. Still about 4 pounds in fat, and the rest in water, give or take the error of water measurement based on biological variability, hence the variability of reporting different total weights depending on the goal of the discussion I'm having at that time. Good.
So I consumed 5.5 to 6 times my caloric intake for 14 days solid.
Yes.
My baseline, what it's been steadily and consistently for 5 years previous to that.
Yep.
I've increased that by 5 or 6 times over for 2 weeks. And I have lost actual body mass. Take the water out of it. 2.5 kilo.
There you go. See, I've even qualified it again. So I've said it twice for Stephen so he can understand the difference between the fat component specifically, 2.5 kilos, 4 pounds, give or take, and the rest, water, with a large 95% confidence interval. Thus, the total weight also has quite a large confidence interval, doesn't it? Yes. Good.
Grams of fat came off my body in those 14 days.
True statement. Great story.
Explain that to me.
And I guess he needed to scale it.
There we go. Shirts off again, or still off for this video to try and impress us all. We're not impressed. Anybody who is impressed by what they see on the screen here on Stephen's little video, please let me know in the comments underneath that you are impressed so that I can block you permanently because it's clear that you're an imbecile.
It back just a little bit because when he spoke to Mark Bell on his channel,
yes, different discussion, different context, slightly different numbers given, still within 95% confidence limits, Stephen. Still correct, still truthful, still scientific and veracious, of veracity, I should say, not voracious so much. I was, during those 14 days, quite voracious, really got that food down me until it started not being any fun anymore, which was after about 7 days. The last 7 were quite torturous to undertake, as was reported at the time on the videos made at the time. Perhaps you should watch them and you'd learn about the contexts of what was occurring then. You'll find those videos on the Odyssey platform.
On November 21st, 2022, he thought the 22 pounds might just be a little bit too much.
No, that was the upper confidence interval limit. Maybe when I was talking to Mark Bell, it was a reasonable discussion with reasonable, intelligent human beings, unlike yourself, Stephen. And as such, I gave a more moderate estimate on the basis of a lower range of 95% confidence. Still true.
So let's tell Mark that I only lost 15 pounds instead. Let's take a look.
Right, so the difference is basically about 7 kilos or about 3.5 kilos. That's about the width of the 95% confidence interval around the measurement of my body weight, Stephen. So, true, full of veracity, scientifically correct, and you're a fool trying to take shots at someone who is vastly superior to you in every conceivable possible way, Stephen. What a shame for you. What's next?
I was consuming 6 to 6,500 so-called calories.
There you go, lower confidence interval bound.
In the form of steak, associated fat with that steak, and additional fat in the form of butter and a yogurt-based tzatziki preparation.
Which had small amounts of garlic in it. I know. Not really 100% carnivore, was it? I'm a liar. Dear, oh dear. Really, should we talk about science at all, Stephen? Do you want to talk about how calories in, calories out really is valid? And I'm wrong about that in some way? Or do you want to try and keep taking shots about me on the basis of your complete lack of understanding of the error of measurement, 95% confidence intervals, or anything remotely scientific in any way? All shots at me that fall flat on their face. Keep trying though, Stephen, because we really love the humor. It's great for us over here.
Pretty much. 3 full meals a day plus snacks. Pog myself to absolutely rifting for 14 days solid.
True story.
Here is what happened.
Also a true story. Here it comes.
I lost 15 pounds.
There you go. Somewhere between 15 and 22. Lower bound for a reasonable discussion, not a debate, just a discussion with some blokes. A more reasonable using the lower bound because I don't have to prove a point. I'm just telling a story, as opposed to a debate style discussion where I'm needing to prove a point. So I use the strongest, highest possible estimate. Good.
12.5 of which, give or take, was water.
There you go. Same qualification again. Same true statement again. Still not a liar, Stephen. You still are. This is all a straw man because you actually can't put together an argument that assails my actual arguments on any topic. Basically, it's waving a white flag and saying I have to take shots at Bart K because I cannot assail his argument. Good work, son.
The rest of it was actually fat.
There you go.
So there is no way you could say I was in a caloric deficit that would suggest that there was any reason I should have lost 2.5 pounds of fat.
Or 4 kilograms. Other way around. See, that's another misspeak. There you go. I should have said there 4 pounds of fat, 2.5 kilos. Easy to happen on a live stream. But the facts still remain that the correct figures are 2.5 kilos of fat or roughly 4 pounds. Sorry about that.
During that 2 weeks.
So let's just do a little bit of a recap.
Well, we've seen what I said. I've corrected the errors of misspeak. I've explained the concept of the 95% confidence interval around the measurement of anything biologically variable. Your straw man argument here, your attempt to undercut me as some kind of a liar has failed, Stephen. You have failed, Stephen, because you're a failure, an abject failure in every way, as people can see by looking at the screen right now and go, well, is this an example of someone who's successful? Well, no, because, well, if any one of those certificates behind you were of any level, value, and took any amount of time to achieve, how did you possibly achieve that many? That's because they're not. They're all things that you bought for $50 and cut out from the back of a Weet-Bix box, a Weetabix box, depending which country, as to whether it's called Weet-Bix or Weetabix. Now you're still trying to undercut me with your strawman argument around my supposed lying, which I've never done. And you're not actually talking about science in any way or actually refuting any of my actual arguments in any way at all. That's a shame for you. Let's hear the conclusions though, shall we?
Of the different versions of this carnivore diet experiment that Bart K has told.
Yes, I've explained this, all of it. You don't need to recap it. We've all seen what I've said. Fair enough to ask the question for me to clarify it. I have done. There's your clarification. Shall we move on? No, you're still desperately trying to win points instead of dealing with science or any arguments at all. So let's hear your arguments for calories in, calories out, shall we?
over the course of the last year and a half? Well, when he spoke to Steak and Butter Gal, that was on January 30th. Then he spoke to me.
We heard that already, Stephen. Why do you need to repeat yourself? Is your brain fog that serious that you can't even follow your own video that you made? I have explained this. Shall we move on?
July 4th, 2022. And then a few months later, he spoke to Mark Bell on the Mark Bell Power Project on November the 20th.
Yes, we can see that. And we also have seen the video, Stephen. We understand what was said and when. We also now understand the underpinnings of all of those statements. Combination of 95% confidence interval and a couple of misspeaks, which do occur on live performances from time to time. Sorry about that.
1st of 2022. With regard to the calories consumed, he ended up telling Steak and Butter Gal that he consumed 5 to 6 times his baseline. He didn't give an exact number.
Right. Well, you've been given the numbers now, and they're not exact. They have an error around their assessment, Stephen. That's the whole point.
When he spoke to me, on the low end, he said 8,500 calories, which...
Yet still within confidence interval limits. It was a misspeak. It should have been 6 rather than 8 in front of those numbers.
Was a 42% increase from the 6,000 on the low end that he told Mark Bell.
Yeah, okay, so what's 20% either direction from 2 different data points? They could be separated by 40% and you could still be correct. Whoops. So, that one fails.
And he told me on the high end, he was consuming between around 8750 calories, which is 35%.
Right, so that's well within 40, isn't it? The top and lower. So if the 6.5 was at the lower end and the 8 to 8.75, whatever, was at the higher end, they're still both correct numbers scientifically because they're both within the 95% confidence interval. Still, it was a misspeak, but nonetheless, it's actually still not incorrect. Fine. What's next?
Higher than the 6,500 calories on the high end that he told Mark Bell.
See, Stephen is still clearly laboring under the misapprehension that you can exactly nail down a measurement of something physiological like mass or calorie intake, so-called, or any of those kind of things. You cannot. There is a range of error around any of the figures that you could possibly give. And I'm perfectly within my rights to speak a number anywhere within those limits, as I have done for different purposes at different times. Still.
Then, with regard to the total weight loss in pounds...
No. There's been conversion between pounds and kilograms, and there's also conversions between talking about the fat component specifically and the total, including fat and water, as explained already.
He ended up telling Steak and Butter Gal that after 2 weeks he lost 4 pounds.
In fact, yes, that was the context of that discussion, still.
To me, he said 10 kilos, which is 22 pounds.
Yes, upper end of the 95% confidence interval.
And that's a 47% greater loss in weight than the 15 pounds that he told Mark Bell.
Right, so what's the 95% confidence interval range around the measurement of my weight from day to day, month to month, all else being equal, Stephen? You don't know, therefore you can't comment on whether that's within the range or not. I'm telling you it is within the range because I know what the error of measurement around my weight is. And that's within the range. I am perfectly within my rights to cite any number between 15 and 22 pounds for that 14-day period on the basis of the error of measurement from day to day. Good.
And then with regard to what was water and what was fat, he never...
Same argument, exactly. Water being the most variable component of one's total mass on a scale on any given day, and indeed from any hour to hour, actually.
Mentioned with Steak and Butter Gal, but to me, he said that he lost 16.5 pounds of water. He said,
yes, we heard, Stephen. It doesn't need repeating. We heard it when I said it. I've explained the range around figures which I'm perfectly within my scientific rights to give for different purposes at different times. Your point still falls flat on its face. You're still a desperate, pathetic little boy without any impressive achievements at all. Not one impressive achievement. Anyone think that his achievements are remotely impressive in any way? Should we look at my achievements in one given small regard of my life without actually doing any physical activity to speak of any kind? How do you like them apples? Not too bad, I thought. Anywho, summarize, Stephen, because your video here has fallen flat on its face.
7.5 kilos, which is 16.5 pounds, which is a 32% greater water loss.
Yes, and how much is the 95% confidence interval around my body water mass? Stephen, do you know? No, you don't. You can't comment on it. That's within the range.
Then the 12.5 pounds that he told Mark Bell. And in terms of fat loss, that would equate to a 5.5 pound fat loss, which is 100.
No, misspeak again on the Mark Bell podcast. I should have said 4 pounds, 2.5 kilos. That's what it was. Okay, still.
20% greater than the 2.5 pounds of fat that he told Mark Bell. Now, to anyone who knows anything about nutrition,
Yes, that's me, Stephen, and not you. Remember, one of the things I specialized in over a 25-year academic career as up to and including a professor of health science, one of my specialities was human nutrition, Stephen. You've never done that or anything close to that. You have a bunch of certificates cut out from the back of Weetabix boxes behind your entirely unimpressive achievements on display there otherwise. Okay? So one of us knows all about nutrition and one of us is you. Still, what's next?
you know that this is impossible.
There you go. So now Stephen wants to tell us what's impossible, given his total lack of understanding or appreciation for basic physics, basic science, first principles, or whatever else. Let's hear it.
People who are going to buy into that crap is going to be Bart K fanboys.
Yes, my fanboys. The only people that listen to me are fanboys.
But anybody knows that if you stuff your face with 5 to 6 times the amount of calories that...
You can't stuff your face with calories. You cannot consume calories. Calories cannot be brought to rest. Sorry about that. Calories are the effect of disturbances in the electromagnetic spectrum, the field, such that there is a so-called energetic, so-called interaction between the electromagnetic field and the, ostensibly in effect, the Higgs field, the thing that gives matter its mass, in such a way as to cause that mass to vibrate, rotate, or translocate at a higher so-called rate in so-called space-time. Such a thing being detected by us as a change in temperature of, in this case, a water bath surrounding a piece of kit called a bomb calorimeter. That is the only way we can detect calories. The only way to bring calories into so-called existence is to rapidly combust, oxidize, if you like, the food sample using a massive electrical current, such as to cause it to become vaporized and to release those photons in the electromagnetic field. Photons in the electromagnetic field. That is what a calorie is. It has no rest mass. It cannot be brought to rest. It cannot be controlled, contained, or consumed. So you can't consume calories, Stephen. Sorry about that. Therefore, what I actually consumed was an amount of mass made up in a certain makeup of macronutrient, all of which is matter. The thing that changes one's body mass is the balance between mass in and mass out, not energy, which is a construct, an idea, something put together to try and explain something that we otherwise can't. It's a convenience. It's a tool. It's not an actual measurable thing. The only measurable thing is the effect of the so-called construct on actual matter, molecules of water, in this case, around the bomb calorimeter. Okay? Sorry about that.
You need to maintain your body weight.
You can't maintain body weight with something that weighs exactly nothing. Neither can you reduce nor increase your body weight by consuming or so-called spending a thing which still has no weight or mass or matter or physical extent of any kind, Stephen. Those are unassailable scientific facts which you do not appreciate precisely because you are an ill-educated imbecile with a very serious ego problem and Dunning-Kruger dripping from every pore. You are a fool. You are a child academically. You are a little boy emotionally, clearly, and you still need to liberally apply some of that analgesic cream to that sore little sphincter you got from me reaming it fully by means of a very severe dealing to you in terms of your errors previously and your lies and your strawmen, you little boy. What is next?
It's going to be impossible to lose 22 pounds or 15 pounds or 4 pounds over the course of 2 weeks.
False, because that is what occurred.
If it was that simple, then Bart
It is that simple. That's why I reported it as such.
would just continue to overeat and he would get leaner and leaner. And
I never claimed that if I continued the same behavior longer than 14 days, that the same result, the same trend would continue. That is your straw man. That is your extrapolation. I never said that. I said, this is what I did in fact do over 14 days, and these are the results I got. Plus or minus confidence interval, depending on the reason, the purpose of different discussions being had with different people in different contexts. Stephen, still. Okay? I never said anything about 15 days, 50 days, or 500. I said what did occur over 14, period. You liar.
leaner. Does it make sense though that that would happen? No, it doesn't.
No, of course it doesn't. And I didn't say it did. You liar.
At the end of the day, if you are consuming more meat than your body...
The day? No, 14 days. 14 days is long enough to see a difference in body composition if calories in, calories out is correct, is it not? Why did it not occur? Why did the exact opposite occur to what should have occurred if calories in, calories out was correct? Stephen, still. No, instead of dealing with that, which you can't because you don't understand what underpins it, instead, you need to try and make out like I'm a liar in some way, which I'm not. Pathetic, desperate, clout chasing. What's next?
requires to maintain homeostasis, you are going to gain weight.
Say homeostasis, though, Stephen, to make it sound like you know some big words.
The carnivore diet isn't just some magical diet that allows you to eat as much as you want. And if you are one of
Nobody said it is, Stephen. Nobody sensible. I certainly have never said that, ever. Not under any circumstances.
those fanboys who listens to Bart,
Yes, fanboys, remember? The only people that listen to me are fanboys.
hopefully you will check out this video. And
Why would they check out your videos, Stephen, on your channel? Nobody else does. You have 10,000 or so subscribers, apparently, for some reason, out of which you generally get less than 1,000 views in a year for each video that you post in general. Does that tell you something? Tells me something.
and you will not end up listening to his advice because he is clearly a liar.
Yes, clearly a liar. I think I've covered that in great detail. I think it's clear which one of us, Stephen, is a liar. I think it's clear which one of us is desperate, which one of us is scrabbling around trying to save face, in the face of having been basically severely dealt with by yours truly, the very superior, very well-educated field marshal, much better than you in every way, Stephen. You're a failure. You're an abject failure. You're a destitute failure. And your clout chasing won't win you any points. My people are laughing at you. They are laughing heartily. Ha ha ha! Chee hee! What a fool this little boy is and how unimpressive he is. How thoroughly unimpressive he is. Good.
And I am going to be exposing more of his lies.
Yes, keep trying, Stephen. Have another crack. You'll fail again. I am unassailable. The science is on my side. I'm the science. Trust me. I know all about the science. My fanboys, these are not the droids you are looking for. This is not the physique you are looking for. This is not a good source of information here, Stephen Daniel. You have all been educated. Right, shall we carry on?
Lies throughout the coming weeks since he continues to spread lies.
Yes, I continue to lie. Left, right, and centre, Stephen. You keep trying to call it out, son, and I'll keep putting you right. No problem.
About me. Next Sunday, I'm going to be sharing another one of his lies, so tune in next week.
We have to wait for a whole week? Is that how long it takes you to rifle through all my material to try and misrepresent what I've said by creatively editing it? Goodness me, I've seen your video here today, Stephen, about an hour ago, and I'm just about finishing off the recording. I'm now going to take another hour or so to edit it up and to make it, ready for presentation, and then I'm going to post it. And I'm much busier than you are, son. Much busier.
So we can debunk a lot of lies.
Yes, debunking. Yes. How much debunking have you done today, Stephen? None. What you've done is totally show that you have no understanding of statistics, measurement, error of measurement, 95% confidence intervals, or basic statistics in any way, shape, or form. Neither do you understand construct. Neither do you understand context. Neither do you understand physics, energy, metabolism, or anything, because you're a buffoon, you're a fool, you're a little boy academically. Emotionally, it seems you are also a very, very immature person, unable to take criticism at all, unable to actually mount a decent refutation to criticism, and instead have to lie about others, set up straw men, misrepresent what they've had to say, and basically make a fool of yourself. It's very sad for you. Your extended family should be embarrassed to be associated with you by genetics in any way, frankly. You're a waste of skin, you're a waste of oxygen, you're a waste of time. I don't mind though, because it's grist for my humor mill and for those of my fanboys who also enjoy my humor. Not to mention the actual good education, solid facts and science they learn by watching my material, unlike watching yours. Good. How are you going to summarize?
That moronic Bart K.
Yes, I'm the one that's a moron, clearly. Says the boy who has clearly no understanding of basic physics, energetics, metabolism, biology, how to build a decent physique. You know, I've achieved what little I've achieved in terms of my physique without any exercise to speak of at all, really. Stephen exercises all the time. You'd think he will have achieved something great in terms of his physique doing that over many years. Maybe he doesn't know anything about exercise either, which I showed during that discussion, remember, that we had several months ago. Never mind. Yes, really, genuinely, I'm superior to you in every way, Stephen. Suck it up, son.
It keeps on spreading. Thanks for hanging around until...
That's it? Okay, so lies, misrepresentations, goodness, can't speak. Misrepresentations, straw men, falsehoods about physics, energetics, metabolism, attempting to impress us with something that really isn't very impressive, is it, boys and girls, at all? Especially considering the context of his devotion to vast amounts of exercise. Maybe it's because he doesn't know anything about nutrition, as well as he doesn't know anything about exercise either. I'm sure all of those 50-cent certificates from Weetabix cartons would completely disprove my point, of course, and I'm wrong and a fool and a buffoon in some way to people who have IQs less than about 50, I would say, Stephen. So people who are thoroughly in your camp. Otherwise, people that have more than 3 brain cells actually get what's gone on here. They understand and they're laughing at you. How does that feel? Whatever. Anyway, the rest of you, you know the drill. Don't let the door hit you in the 6 on the way out of this briefing room. Do clean up. Don't leave any chewing gum under the bleachers here for Ted to have to clean up. That would annoy him. In the meantime, talk amongst yourselves. Not too loudly, though, because we need to enjoy some Vivaldi, don't we? 2, 3, 4.